Emma Taylor clutched her umbrella as rain poured down on the small town of Oakridge. The gray skies matched her mood perfectly. 6 months had passed since she lost her husband James to cancer, and the weight of loneliness pressed heavily on her shoulders. She unlocked the door to their bookshop, now just her bookshop, and flipped the sign to open. The smell of old books usually brought her comfort, but today it only reminded her of James. He had loved that smell, often saying it was like breathing in 1,000 adventures at once. The shop remained quiet all morning. Emma dusted shelves and rearranged displays, tasks that filled her hands but not the emptiness inside her. At 58, she felt invisible, reduced to poor Mrs. Taylor in everyone's eyes. "Morning, Mrs. Taylor," called Thomas, the mail carrier, as he pushed open the door with his shoulder. "Nasty weather we're having." Emma forced a smile but said nothing as she accepted the small stack of envelopes. The townspeople meant well, but their pity only deepened her isolation. "Your garden's looking lovely, despite the rain," Thomas added awkwardly, trying to fill the silence. "James planted those roses," Emma replied softly. "They seem to keep growing without him." After Thomas left, Emma sat at the counter and opened the mail. Bills, advertisements, and a letter from the bank about property taxes. James had always handled the finances. Now it was just one more thing she faced alone. The afternoon dragged on without a single customer. Emma wasn't surprised who would venture out in this downpour. She considered closing early when the bell above the door jingled. A young man with rain-soaked hair entered, shaking water from his coat. He looked to be in his early 30s, with kind eyes and flour dusting his sleeves. "Sorry to barge in like this," he said with a warm smile. "I'm William. Just moved in next door to open the new bakery." Emma nodded politely. "Emma Taylor. Welcome to Oakridge." "Quite a storm out there," William said, looking around the shop with genuine interest. "What a wonderful place you have here." "My husband and I opened it 25 years ago," Emma replied, surprised at herself for sharing even this small detail. "You've created something special," William said. "Mind if I look around? I'm an avid reader when I'm not covered in flour." Emma gestured toward the shelves. "Please." As William browsed, Emma found herself watching him. There was something about his enthusiasm as he pulled books from shelves, read their back covers, and carefully returned them that reminded her of James when they first met. The memory brought both pain and a strange comfort. "I'll take these 3, William said eventually, placing a stack on the counter. "I should probably get back and check on my dough before it decides to escape." Emma rang up his purchases. Their fingers briefly touched as she handed him his change, and she realized it was the first human contact she'd had in days. "The bakery opens officially next week," William said at the door. "You should stop by. First pastries on the house for neighbors." After he left, Emma found herself standing at the window, watching as he dashed through the rain to the adjacent storefront. The newly painted sign read William's Bakery in cheerful blue letters. That night in her empty house, Emma made tea and opened one of the books William had left behind. He'd accidentally grabbed James's bookmark, a pressed leaf from their anniversary trip to Vermont, and left it on the counter. She ran her fingers over the delicate outline, remembering how James had tucked it into his pocket saying, "Nature's best souvenir." For the first time in months, Emma felt a tiny spark of curiosity about the future. What would this new neighbor bring to their quiet street? Would his bakery succeed where the previous 3 businesses had failed? As she drifted off to sleep, the sound of rain eased. Emma dreamed not of the past, but of the smell of fresh bread mixing with the scent of old books, a surprisingly pleasant combination. Emma woke to unexpected sunshine streaming through her curtains. The storm had passed. As she made her way downstairs, she noticed something on her doorstep, a small white box tied with simple twine. A handwritten note was tucked beneath it. "Thought you might enjoy these. First batch from the new oven. William." Inside were perfectly baked scones, still warm and smelling of vanilla and cinnamon. Emma's hand trembled slightly as she took one. James had loved scones for breakfast. Every Sunday morning for 25 years, they would share them while reading the newspaper together. She took a bite and closed her eyes. The scone melted in her mouth, bringing back memories of those quiet mornings. Tears welled up, but they felt different somehow, not just sad but sweet too, like the pastry itself. At the bookshop, Emma found herself glancing more often toward the window. William's bakery was coming to life. Workers painted trim and installed display cases. The activity brought a new energy to their quiet street. 3 days later, William's bakery opened its doors. The line stretched down the block. Emma watched from her window as people emerged with white boxes and paper bags, smiling and chatting. The smell of fresh bread and sweet pastries drifted into her bookshop every time her door opened. Some customers began bringing coffee and treats from Williams into her shop as they browsed. Emma found herself wiping crumbs from book covers and picking up napkins, but strangely, she didn't mind. The bookshop felt alive again. One morning, Emma stood outside William's shop, hesitating. She hadn't actually been inside yet. Just as she turned to leave, William spotted her. "Emma! Please, come in," he called, flour dusting his cheeks. "I've been saving something special for you." The bakery was warm and inviting, with wooden shelves displaying golden loaves and colorful pastries. William led Emma to a small table in the corner. "I found an old recipe book at the market," he explained, bringing over a plate with a slice of lemon cake. This was labeled Oakridge Specialty. "I wondered if you might know it." Emma's breath caught. James's mother's lemon cake. "We served it at our wedding." She hadn't tasted it in years. After her mother-in-law passed, James had tried to recreate it but never got it quite right. "Try it," William encouraged. "Tell me how close I came." The cake was perfect, tart and sweet with a hint of something she couldn't name. "How did you?" William smiled. The recipe mentioned adding a drop of rosewater. "Was that the secret?" Emma nodded, unable to speak. That small detail, forgotten over time, brought back a flood of memories, not just of James, but of family gatherings, celebrations, and simple joys they had shared. One rainy afternoon 2 weeks later, Emma was organizing a new shipment of books when she heard shouting next door. She rushed out to find William in a panic, water pouring through his ceiling. "Emma!" "Thank goodness," he said when he saw her. A pipe burst upstairs. "Do you have a bucket I could borrow?" Without thinking, Emma grabbed her emergency kit and followed him. For hours, they fought leaks and moved supplies to safety. William climbed on chairs to place buckets while Emma mopped floors and helped cover equipment with tarps. By the time the plumber arrived, they had managed to contain the worst of it. William's kitchen was safe, but the storage room had suffered damage. "I don't know what I would have done without you," William said as they sat exhausted on his front step, waiting for the restoration company. "You were amazing in there." Emma surprised herself by laughing. "James always said I was good in a crisis." During our first year of marriage, our apartment flooded 3 times. She realized with a start that she was sharing stories about James without feeling the usual sharp pain. Instead, there was a bittersweet warmth, like looking at a cherished photograph. That evening, Emma found another box at her door. Inside was a loaf of bread with a note, somehow saved from the flood. "Breaking bread with friends makes even difficult days better. Thank you for being my friend today." Emma cut a slice and ate it slowly. For the first time since James died, her house didn't feel quite so empty. Something was shifting inside her, not forgetting, but perhaps making room for something new alongside the memories. The end a new routine took shape in Emma's life over the following weeks. Each morning, she would find a small white box on her doorstep containing whatever William had baked fresh that day. In return, she began setting aside books she thought he might enjoy. Travel stories about Italy when he mentioned wanting to visit someday, mysteries when she noticed him buying one, and occasionally poetry that reminded her of conversations they'd shared. Their shops developed a friendly rhythm. Customers would move between the 2 spaces, carrying books into the bakery or bringing coffee and pastries into the bookshop. Emma found herself talking more, recommending books to William's customers when they wandered in with questions. One Tuesday afternoon, Emma noticed William hadn't opened on time. His bakery remained dark well past 9 o'clock. Concerned, she walked next door and peered through the window. She found him sitting alone at one of the small tables, head in his hands, surrounded by papers. Emma knocked gently. William looked up, his usually cheerful face drawn with worry. He unlocked the door to let her in. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have called to tell you I'm not opening today." "Is everything all right?" Emma asked, noting the dark circles under his eyes. William gestured to the papers spread across the table. "The bank denied my loan extension," he confessed. "If business doesn't pick up in 3 months, I'll have to close. The flood damage cost more than insurance would cover." Emma felt a strange panic at the thought of William leaving. His bakery had brought life back to their street and to her. The idea of returning to the quiet isolation of before made her chest tighten. "But your pastries are wonderful," she said. "The whole town loves them." "Weekends are busy," William explained, "but weekdays are too slow. I need regular customers, not just weekend visitors. And the coffee shop across town has started selling pastries too." Emma looked around the warm space that had become such an important part of her daily life. An idea began forming in her mind. "James always said a good book and a good meal go perfectly together," she said suddenly. "What if we connected our shops? A reading cafe of sorts?" The words surprised even her. She hadn't made plans for the future since James's diagnosis. "What do you mean?" William asked, looking up with the first glimmer of hope. "We could remove part of the wall between our shops," Emma explained, her confidence growing. "Your customers could browse books while they eat. My customers could enjoy your coffee and pastries while they read. We could even host events, author readings, book clubs." William's eyes widened. "That's brilliant, Emma. We could split the costs. My bakery would have a unique feature the coffee shop can't match, and your bookstore would offer something new too." They spent the afternoon sketching ideas on bakery napkins, where tables could go, how to arrange bookshelves, what kinds of events they might host. Emma hadn't felt this excited about the bookshop in years. As evening approached, William made them tea. "I need to ask," he said carefully. "Are you sure about this? It would mean big changes to James's shop." Emma looked toward the wall they were planning to modify. Through it, she could almost see the photograph of James that hung behind her counter, his kind eyes watching over the store he had loved so much. "James never wanted the shop to be a museum," she said softly. "He always talked about keeping it alive, changing with the times. Before he got sick, he was actually considering adding a coffee corner." William smiled. "He sounds like he was a wonderful man." "He was," Emma agreed. "And he would like this plan. He would like you." They worked late into the night, making lists and calculating costs. When Emma finally went home, she noticed that her steps were lighter than they had been in months. The next morning, instead of finding a bakery box on her doorstep, she found William already waiting with fresh coffee and determination in his eyes. "I called a contractor," he said. "He can meet us this afternoon to discuss the renovation." Emma unlocked the bookshop, and they walked in together. She went straight to James's photograph and touched it gently. "We're going to try something new," she whispered to it. Then she turned to William with a smile. "Let's get started." The renovation took 3 weeks. Each morning, Emma would arrive to find workers carrying supplies through what was once a solid wall but now stood as a wide archway connecting the two spaces. The smell of sawdust mixed with fresh paint and baking bread created an oddly pleasant aroma that signaled change. William worked tirelessly, managing the bakery in the mornings and helping with renovations in the afternoons. Emma found herself sorting through books that had sat untouched for years, deciding which to feature in their new shared space. "What do you think?" William asked one evening, standing beside Emma as they surveyed their progress. The archway was finished, trimmed with warm wood that matched both shops' existing decor. Bookshelves now lined the walls of what had been William's seating area, while small tables were arranged throughout Emma's shop. "It's not how I pictured it," Emma admitted. "It's better." They decided to call their new venture Books and Bread, and planned a grand reopening for the following Saturday. Emma designed simple flyers that William handed out with every purchase. Word spread quickly through Oak Ridge. The night before the reopening, Emma couldn't sleep. She went downstairs and found herself drawn to the old wooden box where James kept important papers. She hadn't opened it since his death. Inside, beneath insurance documents and property deeds, she found his business journal. Emma ran her fingers over his handwriting, tears welling in her eyes. She flipped to the last pages he'd written before falling ill. There, dated just 2 weeks before his diagnosis, were sketches and notes. The shop needs new energy. Perhaps a cafe section? Emma deserves a thriving business with a future, not just a memorial to the past. She pressed the journal to her chest, tears flowing freely. James had wanted this all along, not for her to preserve everything exactly as it was, but for her to grow and adapt, just as they had done together throughout their marriage. The reopening day dawned bright and clear. By 9 o'clock, a line had formed outside. Emma and William exchanged nervous glances before opening the doors. People poured in, exclaiming over the transformation. Customers browsed bookshelves with coffee cups in hand. Children settled in the new reading corner while parents enjoyed freshly baked treats. The cash register rang steadily all day. Not everyone approved of the changes. Margaret, who owned the cafe across town, cornered Emma while she was restocking a shelf. "I hardly recognize the place," Margaret said, her voice sharp despite her smile. "James was so particular about keeping this shop traditional. That young man is clearly taking advantage of a widow." Emma felt the words like a slap. "William has been nothing but kind and respectful," she replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Of course, dear," Margaret patted her arm. "I'm sure James would understand. It's just so different now." The comment lingered with Emma throughout the day. By closing time, doubt had crept in. Had she betrayed James's memory? Would he truly have approved of these dramatic changes? That night, Emma sat in her bedroom, reading through more of James's journal. She found entry after entry showing his hopes for the shop's future, his concerns about changing reading habits in the digital age, and most importantly, his wishes for her. "Whatever happens," he had written, "I want Emma to find joy in the bookshop again. It was never meant to be a burden." The next morning, Emma arrived early. She placed James's photograph in a new spot, not hidden away, but prominently displayed where both shops met. She arranged his favorite books on a special shelf beneath it. When William arrived, he noticed the changes immediately. "A tribute corner," he said softly. "It's perfect." "James is still part of this place," Emma explained. "Just in a new way." As weeks passed, Books and Bread thrived. They started a monthly book club that quickly became so popular they had to create a waiting list. Local authors requested to hold readings in their space. The town school arranged field trips for children to learn about baking and books. Emma felt herself growing stronger, more confident. She began suggesting new ideas: a delivery service for elderly readers, special orders for birthday cakes paired with books as gifts. William welcomed each suggestion with enthusiasm. One evening, after a particularly successful day, Emma locked up while William finished cleaning the kitchen. She looked around at what they had created together and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with grief or memory. It was something new: pride, purpose, and perhaps even happiness. The end 1 year after William had arrived in Oakridge, Books and Bread had become the heart of the community. The space that once housed two separate, struggling businesses now buzzed with activity 7 days a week. Book clubs gathered around the large table near the windows. Children sprawled on colorful rugs for Saturday morning story time. Local authors proudly displayed their books on a special shelf by the counter. The anniversary of James's death approached as autumn painted the trees of Oakridge in brilliant reds and golds. Emma found herself thinking of him more often, but the sharp pain had softened into something gentler, a warm remembrance rather than a raw wound. On the morning of the anniversary, Emma woke before dawn. She dressed carefully and walked to the small cemetery on the edge of town. The grass was still wet with dew as she placed fresh flowers on James's grave. "You would hardly recognize the shop now," she told him quietly. "But I think you would like it. People read while they eat. They talk about books over coffee. It's exactly what you wanted: a living, changing place." When she returned, she found a note taped to the shop door, taking care of some business. Open at noon. William. Emma used the quiet morning to sort through a new shipment of books. Around noon, she heard William's key in the lock. Emma, he called out. Are you here? She found him in the bakery section, setting a small cake on their best display stand. It was decorated simply but elegantly with lemon frosting and fresh raspberries. I remembered what today is, he said softly. I made James's favorite lemon cake with raspberry filling, from your description. Emma stared at the cake, then at William. In the year they had known each other, he had become more than a business partner. Not a replacement for what she had lost, but a new connection that somehow honored the love that came before. Thank you, she whispered, touching his flour-dusted hand briefly. They closed the shop early that evening. William had arranged a small gathering, not a sad memorial, but a celebration of James's life and legacy. Regular customers and old friends filled the space, sharing memories of James and complimenting the new business he had indirectly helped create. Thomas, the mail carrier, raised his coffee cup. To James, who always had a book recommendation ready, even when you didn't ask for one. Everyone laughed, including Emma. And to Emma, William added, who had the courage to honor the past while building something new. As the gathering wound down, William brought out a large envelope. I've been working on something, he explained. A way to make James a permanent part of what we've built here. Inside was paperwork for the James Taylor Memorial Book Fund, which would provide books to the local hospital where James had spent his final days. The library there helped him so much during his treatments, William explained. I thought we could donate a portion of our profits each month to keep their shelves filled with new books. Emma couldn't speak. The thoughtfulness of the gesture overwhelmed her. This young man who had never met James had somehow understood exactly what would honor him most. The first donation is already made, William continued. They're expecting a delivery of new books next week. After everyone left, Emma and William sat in the quiet shop, sharing the last pieces of lemon cake. You know, Emma said finally, James would have liked you very much. William smiled. I wish I could have met him. In some ways, you have, Emma replied, looking around at the shop they had created together. His ideas are here. His spirit is in every book recommendation I make. They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell outside. Emma realized something profound had changed within her. Grief hadn't ended, it never would completely, but it had transformed. Like the bookshop itself, her heart had expanded to make room for new joy alongside cherished memories. The next morning, Emma arrived at the shop to find the usual white box on the doorstep. But today, there was something different beside it, a book William had clearly purchased elsewhere to avoid her noticing. The title read, Second Chapters, Finding New Beginnings. Inside was an inscription, to Emma, who taught me that the best stories have many chapters, each beautiful in its own way. Thank you for letting me be part of your story. William. Emma smiled as she unlocked the door, the bell jingling cheerfully above her. The morning light streamed through the windows, illuminating James's photograph watching over the shop. She swore she could see him smiling back at her, proud of the life she was continuing to build. The end.